The Bible verses referring to Enoch, if you put it in, type in the name and search, you'll probably have 12 verses that come up. 8 in Genesis, 1 in 1 Chronicles, Luke, Hebrews, and Jude. 12 verses. And 8 of them, or 9 if you count 1 in Jude, are genealogy. So who was Enoch? So if you go to the first slide there, it just has a genealogy from Adam to Noah. And you don't need to read all the names. Just look at the short green line up there. That's Enoch. During his time, most of the people, 900 years was not unusual, but Enoch was only 365 years in total. And if you can see the chart, you can see that Enoch's time, when he was alive, he lived with most everyone there, except I think at the bottom, Noah was just slightly after Enoch was taken up. And you can also see that it looks like only Adam passed away before Enoch was taken up. So out of those 7 verses, or out of those verses there that explain it, we can see Adam is, from 7th from Adam is Enoch. And he had a very short life in comparison to others of his time. And he also lived in a very corrupt time. The people around him were exceedingly evil. Almost everyone rejected God. The world was full of violence during his time. And if we go over to Genesis, I'm going to just read from chapter 6, starting at verse 5. The Lord saw how great the wickedness of the human race had become on the earth, and that every inclination of the thoughts of the human heart was only evil all the time. Pretty harsh statement that is there. But it gets worse. Verse 6, the Lord regretted that he had made human beings on this earth, and his heart was deeply troubled. And if that's not bad enough, it gets worse again with verse 7. So the Lord said, I will wipe from the face of the earth the human race that I have created, and with them the animals, the birds, and the creatures that move along the ground, for I regret that I have made them. So it doesn't get much worse than those 3 verses. But there is a little bright spot that's in verse 8 when he says, but Noah found favor in the eyes of the Lord. This is the account of Noah and his family. Noah was a righteous man, blameless among the people of his time, and he walked faithfully with God. Noah had 3 sons, Shem, Ham, and Japheth. And now the earth was corrupt in God's sight and was full of violence. God saw how corrupt the earth had become for all the people on earth. For all the people on earth had corrupted their ways. So what does the Bible say in those remaining 3 verses about Enoch? Because living in such a corrupt time, only 7 steps away from Adam. In Genesis, we can go to chapter 5 of Genesis and verses 22 through 24. And after he became the father of Methuselah, Enoch walked faithfully with God 300 years and had other sons and daughters. Although Enoch lived in a total of 365 years, Enoch walked faithfully with God. Then he was no more because God took him away. So that's what he's probably known best for, is walking the 300 years with God and being taken away, just vanishing, as we would say. The only other case of that only other person to ever not tasted in death like Enoch did there, where he didn't die, is in the Old Testament, the prophet Elijah, that was dramatically taken to heaven alive in in a whirlwind. So 2 Kings 2:11 would say, as they were walking along and talking together, suddenly a chariot of fire and horses of fire appeared and separated the two, meaning Elisha was walking with them at the time, so Elisha was separated from Elijah, and Elijah went up to heaven in a whirlwind. So Elijah walked with God and was a faithful, obedient servant. Hebrews 11:5, if we go another verse here, it's validating the Genesis account in the New Testament here. It says, by faith Enoch was taken from this life so that he did not experience death. He could not be found because God had taken him away. For before he was taken, he was commended as one who pleased God. And then lastly, the verses I have here from that is Jude 14 and 15, where Enoch, the seventh from Adam, prophesied about the Lord coming. See, the Lord is coming with thousands upon thousands of his holy ones to judge everyone and to convict all of them of all the ungodly acts they have committed in their ungodliness, and of all the defiant words and ungodly sinners have spoken against him. So again, Enoch, I've got the slide there that just kind of summarizes some of the things that we just read and know about Enoch, that he walked with God the 300 years, he lived 365, which was a short time, that he lived in the corrupt and evil, violent times. He never died, never tasted death. He was taken by God. He prophesied that the Lord was coming to convict. He pleased God. He trusted, he obeyed, and then he was seventh from Adam. So what does it mean exactly to walk with God? It's probably not, as I think of walking with someone, a physical walk of a young child taking the mother's or grandmother's hand and raising it up without question and trusting them as they guide them across the parking lot or street. It's a different type of walk. In Genesis 3:8, we can go back to Adam and Eve and read, and it says, and they heard the sound of the Lord walking in the garden in the cool of the day, and the man and his wife hid themselves from the presence of the Lord God among the trees of the garden. They heard him, and they ran and hid. John 24, we can see he refers to God as spirit. And going on to Micah 6:8, it says to please God, we have to do justice and to love kindness and to walk humbly with your God. So it requires walking with God, requires acting justly, loving mercy, walking humbly. Even Colossians 2:6 invites us to walk in him. And you can find many other scriptures that have different types of references. John 7, living an honest, transparent life free from habitual darkness. Whereas many other scriptures refer to us walking in the light. Like physical walking, this implies that we are in sync with God, that we are moving with God, we are thinking with God, we are acting with God, and we are confident that God's direction and lead is best. We're following it. Amos 3:3, can two walk together unless they agree to meet? These teachings here emphasize that fellowship and that with God, to walk with God, requires turning away from sin and intentionally following God's commandments, to trust him. So by walking in faith, we have to rely on divine and spiritual guidance, God's direction, rather than the fleshly desires and guidance from people of this world. For we live by faith, not by sight, in 2 Corinthians. So walking with God is doing what God wills, doing it in a spiritual way by faith, trusting and obeying. We don't know exactly what Enoch was asked of by God, what he was asked to do. But whatever he was asked, whatever was requested of him, he obviously did it. He trusted God, he obeyed God, and that's the message from that. He had a deep faith, he was obedient, his actions aligned with God's will, and question would be for us is, what does that look like in our everyday life? If you go to the next slide there, Enoch suggests that he walked constantly with God. He didn't slow down. He didn't veer from the course. He had absolute trust. So he believed in God's promises. He believed in the character of God, and even during difficult times, which had to have been extremely difficult based on the Genesis account we read of what was going on around Enoch. He had complete obedience. He aligned his actions and choices and lifestyle with God's commands. His actions were consistent. They didn't vary. They just stayed the path. His spiritual habits, whether it be prayer and worship or scriptural study or whatever he did, it was consistent in his actions. He had unwavering, he had love and humility. We'll go for that. He expressed his faith through charity, kindness probably, and serving others. And he also had unwavering, faultless loyalty. He expressed his faith and prioritized his relationship with God over any worldly distractions or anything that was going on around him with temptations. Andrew last night talked a lot about faith and faithfulness. And, faith you can believe. People believe, they trust. They may be somewhat loyal, but faithfulness is really the actions that come from it. To be faithful, it has to generate faithfulness in action, fidelity, doing what the Lord instructs us to do. So that's kind of a summary of what I found about Enoch and what we can take from the example that Enoch presented to us in Scripture.